Looks like we've got a couple more people watching too. We've got Lisa and Jennifer. Jen is
Wow.
also an old friend of mine. Lisa,
No way.
I met through Mobilize Recovery, possibly. So hi to them. And
Thanks for your interest, friends of Amanda.
I was trying to see if there's anything else here that you wanted to talk about. Um, I know it's important for families to know it's not their fault
Yeah,
when their kids have these struggles.
yeah. Oh, can I
Um,
interrupt? Pardon me for interrupting. Um, Another great point that Mike makes. Mike talks about how wonderful his childhood was. So, and people are always trying to figure out, how did this happen? How did addiction
right.
happen? Yeah, and
Where to
people
go
are
wrong.
always, yeah, people are dying to know that, as
Hmm.
if almost as if they could figure it out, then it would give a solution, maybe. Um, but one thing Mike says is that and he says it very clearly, I had a wonderful childhood. I couldn't have had a better childhood. And I got love and I got support and we had fun. And so I mean, he's not talking about trauma or anything in like his early years that he thinks led to this, uh, which I think is helpful to just recognize that uh, people who have wonderful childhoods can also develop behavioral health conditions.
Yeah, I
And
was one of them. I had a good
right,
childhood too. Yeah.
right, right, yeah. And so it's something outside of the box. Maybe it's just human nature, but a lot of us try to predict and we try to stereotype and fit things into boxes and into categories. Like you've got to have adverse childhood experiences when you were a child in order to develop these kind of conditions. But it's it's a good reminder for people to hear that you can have a great childhood and you did a great job as parents, and yet you can have this. And that's certainly the case with virtually all the families that I've worked with and over the many years, that I mean, you do the best you can and then you hope for the best is a lot of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like the stigma and the stereotyping and how people with addiction or alcoholism are portrayed on TV and movies and everything that has been pushed on us. It's like people assume that something terrible had to happen in their life, or they had to have a terrible upbringing or in the trauma and all that. But it's
Right,
not. Sometimes it's like the smallest things, and if you just don't know how to cope with those things, you find something that helps you cope with it. Like
right,
Mike didn't have any trauma, and he said that it was kind of like a social lubricant for him to drink when he went out.
right.
And
Yeah,
after all these years, I think it was the weight of like disappointing my parents repeatedly that caused me to use drugs. And I just couldn't deal with that guilt, I guess, and didn't know what to do. I mean, I also really just wanted to use drugs, but I just that guilt for my parents was really hard for me to carry. It took a long time to figure that out, but yeah,
yeah.
it's not always this crazy traumatic thing and everything.
Right. And it's okay to not know, to not
Yeah,
understand. Like, I don't think we might think that we know, but I don't know. It just sometimes it happens. I mean, why did I not develop an addiction?
right.
I,
Tons of
I,
people
I,
don't develop an addiction.
right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, I was as prime a candidate as anyone
Hmm.
based on struggles that I had as a kid into adolescence and young adulthood,
Yeah.
until I got treatment for depression and anxiety. But it's like, I mean, why didn't I? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, your struggles that you had with depression and anxiety in college, if everybody doesn't know, was like very severe depression. And I mean, of all
Yeah.
things, like it can really take somebody down. and it didn't. You came out of it, and you know, you had
Yeah.
grew up in a really large family, and that's tough to deal with sometimes. And yeah, it's pretty amazing. But it's like, why? You know, why one person, not the other? So
Right. Yeah. And that's so important for families to bear in mind, because so many people out there are going to blame you for what you didn't do, or to criticize you for what you're doing now, that
mhm.
you're just enabling, or you got to let them hit rock bottom. You can't help them, otherwise you're reinforcing the substance use. And it really doesn't work like that, but that's what you'll hear from people, which then drives the family further deeper into shame and isolation. Um, it's a lonely place to be for most families, because they don't feel like they can talk about it to people, because they end up getting so much crap no matter what they do. I've so many of these families, they're the best families you could ever want, but they still get crap and they get blamed. It's really not true, but it's like, it's our society, I guess.
Something I've been wanting to ask you actually is about the codependency, because you've mentioned it before, how it's not good or not true and stuff. And I would just love to hear more about that from you. Like, how does codependency, or this idea of codependency, cause more pain and damage? And how does it like not help?
Well, there's no scientific evidence for this concept of codependency. Um, and if you try to get a definition of it, it's hard to get. There's not an agreed upon one type of definition about it, but you'll hear that buzzword thrown around a lot.
All the time.
Yeah, yeah, and when I first started in the field, it was really popular, and there was this concept, adult children of alcoholics. And the idea was that if you, again, it's pigeonholing people, and that if you grew up in an alcoholic family, you're going to have this character flaw, that character flaw, or you're going to be overly dependent, you're going to be a people pleaser, you're not going to be able to deal with conflict and all of that. So the idea being that when a person develops dependency, which we don't use that word anymore with substance use disorder, but when people develop an addiction, that the family becomes dependent on trying to fix them, or trying to get them to stop, and that it becomes an illness for you just automatically because someone has developed an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And and then what is generally recommended is that you have to get into a recovery, which means you have to focus on yourself, not on the person with the addiction, which means you also pull back your support. You detach with love, I guess, but they talk about detachment.
Yeah.
And basically, and what goes along with that as well is this whole idea about setting boundaries. Like, you have to put limits down, you have to set boundaries, and they call them healthy boundaries. And basically it means don't help them out, don't try to love them, don't actively love them while they're in a period of use, and just focus on loving yourself. And it
It's,
usually doesn't work.
it's very tied to like enabling too. It's like the two go hand in hand.
Right.
Don't give them money.
Yeah.
Don't give them a ride. Don't let them live in your house. Don't this. Don't. You know, it's just like cut them off. And
Right. And what we've seen is that it's if you are, this whole concept of harm reduction, if you can reduce the risk of harm coming to that person with the addiction by helping them have housing, helping them have enough to eat, helping them have health care, and supporting them in those ways, then you can improve their quality of life. You can keep them healthy, you can keep them alive so that they can fight another day if they want to fight against the addiction, or that they just go through more in life. But the alternative is to pull away the support and to not try to reduce harms. Is just it will increase the risks. I mean, obviously, if a person doesn't have housing, they're going to come to harm at some point.
Yeah.
So it's like pulling housing away is going to motivate them to stop using substances and get a job and pull their lives together. It doesn't happen like that.
And it's like, how many people do you ever hear say, you know, oh, I got kicked out and everything, and my family stopped talking to me, and so I went into rehab and I stopped using drugs. Like, you just don't really hear anybody say that.
No,
you know,
no,
like,
no.
it's like if your whole family stops talking to you, or even a couple, the few people like that are closest to you stop talking to you. I mean, like, I just want to put the covers over my head and just like crawl into a hole, you know, and just go
Right.
down the path that I'm on even harder and further. You know, it's just like,
Right.
it's just throwing more weight on somebody that already can't handle what they're carrying.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'll never forget hearing about how your father, when you were in a period of active use and addiction, your father would put bars around your windows to keep people from breaking into your apartment, or put a deadbolt lock on your door and I guess he would just do it.
Yeah, he would.
He would see that it needed to be done, and he would just go and do it, and you let him do it, which was great. But I mean, that's when I heard about that, it just hit home really deep. That's like the perfect thing to do. Yeah, I mean, you don't want your daughter to come to harm, to have her home broken into, and whatever is going to happen. Why would you want to support that? No, I mean, we want to keep people safe.
Yeah, and it was,
and your parents just knew how to do that instinctively.
yeah. Yeah, I had to live in some not so great areas because that's what I could afford at that age. And so he would just, you know, instead of being like, no, you're not going to live there, and okay, we'll give you more, you know, like they're not going to support my rent forever. So he would just go in and he would, and you know, and I'm renting, I'm under like contract, and he would just drill a hole right in the door to the bedroom if I had roommates, and he would put the deadbolt on there. And yeah, he built an entire what do you call them, you know, the bars over the windows. Like, he built the bars, he welded them together and then put them over the window next to the door so nobody could get in. But yeah,
right,
it was normal to me. Like, that's just what my dad did. But
right, the handyman, the fix-it guy.
Yeah,
keeping busy. Yeah, and I mean, your story, Amanda, yours and your family is just so amazingly powerful that I mean, they kept close to you for that, you know, 15 years or whatever it was, and then all of a sudden, at some point, you were ready to think about treatment. And it seems like it just kind of it just happened, you know.
yeah. Well, I got thrown in jail. You know, they bailed me out and gave me an ultimatum, and I was like, okay, this is it. That's why I gotta tell them everything I've been doing for the past 15 years, and without any thought in the world about how all that would affect them, of course. You know, didn't even cross my mind that it would be overwhelming or sad or anything. I just had to get it out, I guess. But
well, I mean, that's what I mean. They stayed in contact with you. They kept a relationship with you. They kept reaching out, so that okay, so somehow they found out that you were in jail, and they went in and they were gonna take care of you. They weren't going to let you stay in jail.
Yeah, true,
So
true.
yeah, and so like, you know, why is it that moment in time? I mean, who knows? But it was, and thank God it was.
Yeah, yeah. If they wouldn't have came to help me, I mean, I would have been right back. I would have still been using drugs for sure. But
Yeah,
it's definitely
yeah,
their help and support that that got me sober. So
yeah. And the fact that they just knew what to do intuitively, um, that still blows my mind. They had the right idea, and I don't know what they were hearing from other people about, don't help your daughter out. I assume that they heard some of that at times, but they were going to do what they knew was the right thing to do, and they were right, and it was just intuitive.
yeah, it was like a big it just happened so fast, you know. My mom just got to work and made her calls and figured it all out. It's like I didn't really, yeah, it just happened fast, really fast. I
Well,
was
they
too
were,
sick.
yeah. I mean, they were ready. They had been building up to that point for years and years and years, right?
Oh yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, they always suspected something was going on, and then but they never really knew. And then
Yeah,
I told them, so, and then I was like, all right, it's go time. So, yeah,
yeah. Well, thank God that you could talk about, you could, for the first time, maybe talk about what was really going on.
yeah,
And well, yeah, I suppose it is a burden to the parent, but that the parent still wants to hear it, because
yeah,
if they don't hear it, then, you know, nothing moves forward.
yeah, yeah. How do you deal with, like, you know, Mike, your son? He mentioned that like he'll call you and he'll talk to you about something, but then weeks will go by, months will go by. You know, he won't really talk about it or discuss what's going on. You know, you kind of have to like reach out to him and stuff. Like, how do you stay patient and just wait for him to talk to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I try to respect his agency, his need to make decisions and to live his life the way that he wants. And that I'll be there for him when he wants to talk, when he wants to reach out. And so that's, I guess that's how we do it. And we'll reach out to each other on a text message. We text to each other more than we call each other.
Yeah.
Um, and so we'll text about something, and if I see something that I think he might be interested in, or if I see something funny that he might enjoy, I'll send it to my kids, and we'll have a back and forth kind of thing. So I mean, it's interesting. Uh, I don't know. We stay close, even though we don't necessarily talk a lot on a regular basis. We're not the kind of family that talks daily. And
Yeah.
I know there's some, you know, father, daughter, parent, mother, whatever. There's some families, they talk every day, sometimes
Mm,
several times a day.
yeah.
Like, whoa.
I know, I know.
Yeah,
My family doesn't do that either.
yeah, yeah, we don't do that. So I don't know. It, well, as Mike says, it works for now anyhow, and so that seems to work for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've been talking for almost an hour here. Yeah.
Ooh,
I don't know if you have anything else you want to talk about or just want to,
let's see. Look at my notes.
yeah, check your notes over there. And I'm going to
Oh,
hit my nicotine inhaler while I do.
I think we talk about change talk with motivational interviewing. Change talk is when someone says something which shows or suggests that they're thinking about making a change in their lifestyle. And if you ever hear change talk coming from a person with a behavioral health condition, that's wonderful. It means that they're open to a different idea. They're open to trying something else. And we heard a lot of change talk from Michael in that episode. He had identified having difficulty with confrontation. He didn't like having to confront people. Now he's got a great job in management, and there's a certain amount of conflict in resolving problems. He's got to confront some people. And so he's figured out that that's a trigger for him, in a sense, that could be something that might influence him to drink. So he's using that awareness of himself to try to learn it. He's learning how to deal with conflict and being more assertive, so that he doesn't get in a position where he ends up having or feeling like he has to drink. So there were a lot of things like that he came up with, which I thought is real recovery. And recovery in the sense of somebody learning something valuable about their triggers, and then how to avoid those triggers, how to take care of something in a positive way. And he talks about having a difficult conversation with his mom that he had held off for 10 years. And I don't know what it was. I still don't know what it was about. And that's okay. Maybe I'll never know. And I won't ever ask, because that's him. But so for him, after 10 years, to find a way to talk to his mom and to get a really positive response from her, and kind of let go of some, resentment, it sounds like, he knows that that's healthy, and that by doing healthy things like that it's going to take away a reason for him to drink, because he's not swallowing everything, he's not stuffing everything down. So we were hearing, and he was leading us to what he's been aware of. And what was amazing and cool for me was that I was unaware of that discussion that he had with his mom. I didn't know about it until you and he were talking about it.
Yeah.
And then, so to hear that he's connecting the dots, and how to be healthy behaviors that are going to help him manage his stress, so that he doesn't have to turn to alcohol. He's learned a lot about himself. So he's got all this knowledge about alternatives to drinking to manage stress, and the exercise that it's a great point to make. It's usually not a matter of saying, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to use substances, and then being able to do it. It's usually a little more complicated, but we find other ways of dealing with stressors, with things that are tough to handle. So that was something interesting, it really positive, and that says recovery to me.
So like if other parents hear, I feel like they have to listen to it a little closer, but hear growth, small moments of growth that their child or their loved one is making, they should take that as a sign of recovery and improvement in their life, no matter what it is or what it's about, and just things that they wouldn't have done before. And just, I like to call them doing adult stuff. That's what I call them. I did this adult thing today, and I dealt with an issue that I had, and something I never talked about before.
And that's cool. And it gives you a good feeling, right?
Yeah, no, it totally does. I feel like I did something how I was supposed to do it. And I was thinking about everybody else in the moment too,
Right. Yeah. One of the benefits to the family coaching is to the families to present what's going on, and then I'll hear something and I'll say, wow, they really did that. Today I heard about a mother whose daughter found herself a treatment bed, and it was the first time and she's in her 30s, she's not a kid. And she's been getting treatment off and on for years. But it was the first time that the patient had done that legwork of seeking it out. So when I hear that, I say, has she ever done that before? And the mother I'm coaching, she says, no, she's never done that before. I said, isn't that amazing? That's like fantastic. That's growth. That's recovery. And then the mom says, you know, you're right. She's never done that before. I had to point it out for her to get that, you know?
Was she focusing on other stuff besides like her getting, she was just jumping ahead 10 steps?
Well, she's focusing on the disasters.
Right.
Like it's kind of like walking through a minefield, or like there's a war going. It's a war zone. And so, yeah, it's natural to focus on the disasters, and to lose track of the successes, the growth, the maturity, I call it recovery. If someone can get to the point of reaching out, same situation, after a day or two of some substance use, the same daughter goes to her mother and says, I know I'm heading down a slippery slope. I got to get back into treatment. That was the first time she had ever done that. So it really helps the families to recognize that, and to have somebody objective help them understand that. And they'll say, you think that's a good sign? I'll say, yeah, that's a good sign. That's basic self-care.
Yeah.
And, you know, instead of expecting someone else to do it or having it done involuntarily, the person is saying, I don't want to keep doing this. And they're anticipating it's that slippery slope. So yeah, that's huge recovery. And that's what people build on.
Yeah.
And it's a process. It's recovery usually isn't like a one and done. For some people it is one and done, you know, all of a sudden like they have a turning point and then they don't have any struggles. But for a lot of people it's not. And so you can celebrate those successes, and you can give them a lot of praise for that,
and support,
which will encourage them. It encourages them, because you know that person, this daughter, she's focused. She's probably, her mind is probably on, you know, the fact that she had resumed use and she didn't want to, so she's kind of hung up on that, which is discouraging. But if you praise her for taking a positive step, it just makes all the difference. In encouragement, it's like when people feel love, they're capable of amazing accomplishments. And that's, you feel loved when, you know, your mom says, wow, that's really good what you did. You know, focusing on that positive.
When it's recognized, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good note. What was that?
Yeah. I think this is a good note to end on.
All right. We went for over an hour, so.
I know.
And Jeff Horton joined us, who is somebody I went to high school with. So, a few people watching. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah. And Amanda, you are, as always, you're just terrific. And you got your unique perspective. And I mean, you care about people so much, and that shows. So thank you so much for helping me out with this and helping people in our audience out with this. It's really, you're the greatest. You're the best.
Oh, you're the best, Patrick. I'm glad that we figured this out today and we got on here and we went live. So
I know.
We did it. I told you we could do it. We did it. We did it.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say I told you we could do it, but we did it.
Yep. We nailed it.
We got it.
So. We got it. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Submit your questions. Oh, how do they find us? FamilyAddictionCoach.com. Podcasts.
Yeah, podcasts is on there.
YouTube channel. What's the YouTube channel?
It's on the website. They'll see your little Psychology Today video, and they can go right to your YouTube from there. So
I love that. And thanks for encouraging me and pushing me to embrace video. I needed that support. Thanks.
yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, good. Good. We'll do it again sometime, maybe.
We will. We definitely will.
Okay. Have a good evening, everybody.
Bye.